Hey, what's up guys? This is Jesse, you're watching JL's Comics, and today we're going to be talking about my want list for 2018. 2017 is come and damn near nearly gone, so we got to be looking forward to the future and what we want. So stick around if you want to know what's on my list. I'm about to tell you. What's going on? So I want to tell you guys what is on my 2018 want list, and I want to tell you first how I arrived at this decision for these books or this book or whatever it is that I'm going to show you how I got here. One of the things I've been doing was thinking about my lists from the past and the success that I had with them, why the books that I had on there were there. And I came to the conclusion that a lot of times when I wrote the list, it was a list that I wanted. They were all books that I wanted, but they were books that I wanted right at that moment. I didn't take time to think about it over the course of time and see if that want was as consistent or as strong as maybe it was if I had initially just sat down and wrote them down. And I think if I had done that in the past, some of those books, granted, I still want them. They wouldn't be on the list that I had made, like last year's list, what have you. There are still some books I didn't get because as I went forward into 2017, my wants changed for my list, and I was okay with not getting them. They're still on what I have as a master list of like overall, like all the books that I want, holes I need to fill, what have you. So they're still on there. But in terms of them being on a top 10 like hit list for the year, no. So just kind of a lot of those things where, whether it was like movie news or TV news or I saw it in someone's video or something like that and it was just fresh in my mind, so I put it down and I was hyped at the time, but you gotta give it some time, and that's what I did. One of the things also that I wanted to do was think about not only what books I wanted, but why. Why do we want these books? That is a very powerful question to ask yourself. There was a Greek philosopher. His name was Socrates. He's known for a very popular teaching method called the Socratic method that's employed in very many schools to this day. But one thing that he had was something called Socratic questioning. So basically what he would do was, his students would come up with something and all he would say is why. And then the student would have to come up with the answer for that. And he would just keep saying why for basically just a sentence or two, and then just keep saying why. And it's exploratory. Whatever the question is, it helps you kind of explore your own mind, learn things about yourself. Those answers, if you just come up with them like that, just don't take too much time thinking about it. It will maybe show you things that you hadn't consciously thought of or actively thought of in the past. So actually pause this video and try it. Start with this, say, I collect comics. That's it, just with the one sentence, and then say why. And see what your mind comes up with, and then just keep saying why and see where you go from there. That helps to find the answers to those questions. I want this book. Why? What's the motivation behind it? And I'll talk about that in a second. But it gives you the motivation, but it also helps you to trust yourself. Once you explore that, once you really know what is in your mind, I'm not saying you don't, but we can always use further exploration into our own minds, if you will. It's really going to give you a better understanding of why you chose the book, why it's there, and it will help you push forward till you get it. And then the other thing that you have to do, I know a lot of times when I hear this in videos, read this in comments, I'm guilty of it myself plenty of times in the past, where we say, that book is too big, that's impossible for me, I'll never own that book, that thing is way too expensive, it's out of my price range. You need to stop that, because that's not true. You can get those books, and you will get those books if you want them. One thing that you have to do, again, is be clear on that why. And asking yourself those questions really helps to identify that for you. Whether it's your Grail book, and nobody can tell you what the Grail book is. The Grail books go back, the way I understand it, you have to look at King Arthur, Arthurian legend, and Quest for the Holy Grail. It was something that they sought out, they went out on quests for, the dollar bin quests, the LCS quests, and they just couldn't find it. It was always out of their grasp, but they always went out looking for it, and they just couldn't get to it. So that was the Grail. So that's what a Grail is to me, but what that specific Grail is to each person is going to be different for those different motivational reasons. But the next thing that you have to do, once you're clear on the why of why you want the book, you have to write it down. And that's what we do with these lists. Writing things down is really, really powerful. It takes it out of your mind, puts it on paper, makes it real. You're doing a couple things there. You're using more of your senses and more of your synaptic firings and your nerve endings to make it more prominent in your mind. But you're also acknowledging to yourself that where you are right now, meaning where you are right now with your collection, you're not satisfied with it. You're acknowledging that where you want to be with your collection is what's on the paper. And that's really powerful. Once you do that, it's a powerful, strong motivator to continue pushing you forward. So you have the why, you have it now. And then the next thing that you have to do is continue that, to carry that forward, to keep that up. And one thing to do that is repetition. And there's different ways you can do that. You know, you take the paper, here's my paper here, and you put it up in a place that is obvious to see, whether it's on the refrigerator, whether you put it in your man cave, where you keep your comics, whether you put it on your nightstand to piss your wife off. You know, put it somewhere where you're going to be seeing it. Reading it, seeing it with your eyes, that repetition is going to keep it strong and fresh in your mind. And another thing that I like to do is remind myself, before I go into the comic shop, before I look on eBay, you know, remind yourself of what your priority is. Remind yourself of what that goal is. And that's going to tie into making sacrifices. Sometimes you just have to be able to let some stuff go to get what you want in the future. I was talking with my friend Brian, a good friend of mine at Phil's Comic Shop over in Margate. And we were talking about original comic art. And, you know, you like things that you have, of course, because you wouldn't have got them otherwise. But you have to ask yourself, is that still more valuable or more important to me than this new thing that I want to try to acquire, or this thing that's the next level up? You know, so you have to be able to let things go, make sacrifices. If you don't want to let things go, one thing that I've done, and I've already started with this, I'll show you, is cut back on my pull list for the weeks, cut back on the amount of the books that I'm picking up. You know, when I go out comic hunting, you'll notice that my hauls have really come down quite a bit in terms of, you know, the output that I put out on this channel here. And that's because I'm taking that money, and instead of just getting the books just to get the books, which granted they're books that I want or I'll eventually get, I'm trying to take that money and put it towards my goal money. And that's the sacrifice. One of the sacrifices that I'm making is not picking up all of those other books and putting it here. I believe it was Reaper Tate who said, you find a great deal, and it's a great deal, right, on paper, monetarily, but is it truly, right? If you have a goal that you're working towards, and you find this great deal, and you spend the money over there instead of putting it towards your goal, is that really a great deal for yourself? And those are questions you have to ask as you go along. Helps to keep you motivated, helps to remind you the repetition. And once, like I said, you ask yourself why, remembering that why, keeping that motivation there. And if it's a big book that you're looking for, there's a couple things, of course. You have to research the book. You have to know the market for the book, the ranges for the book. But you also have to know, and again, this goes back to knowing yourself, knowing your budget, knowing the amount of money that you can put away, and then factoring in what that market value is based on your research for the book. And just doing simple math, but figuring out the length of time it's going to take to attain that. Okay? And that length of time is going to be the length of time where you're doing the repetition, where you're making those sacrifices, where you're working towards your goal. And once you do, I guarantee you're going to be happy with it. And you're going to say, you know what? I could do it. It was possible. It wasn't too expensive. And you worked for it. You worked hard for it. You made sacrifices. And that's all going to play right into that value for you. It's so easy to go out and just pick up a book. But when you had to work for it, when you had to cut back, when you had to do this and that, you're going to love that book so much more. Okay? So with all that being said, what is my 2018 want list? Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's one book I'm putting on my want list for this year. One book. And I told myself, I've wanted this book for a long time. It wasn't just I sat down on a whim and, just wrote out a list and it just happened to be there. This is year over year over year. Years I've wanted this book. But I've always told myself it's too much. I'll never get it. I'm not going to be one of those people who walks into the consignment shop or the flea market and finds this book for $5. I said, nope. I resigned to the fact that I was never going to get it. But last year, when I got the Giant Size X-Men, I was like, you know what? I need to be more optimistic. I need to trust myself more. I need to be more strategic and, kind of figure out what I want to do with my collection. I'm collecting comics. Remember I said this? You're collecting comics. You ask yourself, why? What books do you want? And I came up with this book. I said, this is the year I have to get it. So it's the one book on my list. And I wrote as well, okay, so this is it. I just put a little picture here. You can see my drawing there. Hulk 181 is the one book that I want this year. It is within my range. I can do it. You guys will help pull me accountable. I'll still be putting out videos, maybe different mix of videos until I get this. But I'll tell you, once I get this, I'm going to be so happy, and I will make a big video about it. And the other thing that I did, this is the paper I'm going to keep in my videos, is this is my percent to goal. Okay? I'm not going to tell you the range I'm looking for. I'll save that for the final video. That'll be a fun reveal. Or the amount of money I'm targeting for this. I am being flexible in the range and thereby the actual final dollar amount, because based on the different grades, it can jump up pretty quick. In $500 increments, really, a couple $100 increments. But I do have a number in mind for the 100%. And for that number, I do have 30% of what I want. And you guys, if you're smart, the range is there. So you can kind of have a general idea maybe of what I'm looking for. But that's it. This is my book that I am going to get this year. The Incredible Hulk, number 181. First full appearance of Wolverine. So that's it, guys. Let me know all your thoughts down below. If you like this video, a little bit of motivation there for you. Maybe that will help you with your list, understanding why you picked the books, and helping give you some ideas on how to stay the course throughout the year to get those books. And one thing that we can do here as a community that helps with that repetition is holding each other accountable, asking in the comments, hey, are you close to getting that book yet? Or telling someone, hey, I know that book was on your list. Great job getting that. I'm sure you worked hard to get that, whatever it is. They'll tell the story in their video. But that's positive reinforcement for them. That's, the community saying, hey, good job picking up that book that we know you wanted. And that will help motivate to continue with other people's books or other books on their lists. There you go. I'm stuttering already, so that means it's time for me to stop talking. So that's it, guys. Hulk 181 is my 2018 want list. Comments, questions down below. If this is your first time here, feel free to subscribe. The JLS Comics family is growing pretty quickly. There's quite a few people here who've been signing up lately, and I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for being part of this channel. Really, really appreciate it. And if I don't talk to you guys in the next couple of days, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. If you're not watching this into 2018, Happy New Year as well. To you and to your families, from me here. And that's it. Jesse, JLS Comics. I'll see you next video.